Hello again, everybody. I wanted to make a quick introduction of myself. My other video tried to introduce the course, but I felt like I should say just a couple of things about myself since I am asking you to introduce yourself at some point over the next 2 weeks. There's a discussion board about introducing yourselves that I'd like you all to participate in really quickly. Nothing elaborate is necessary, but I just wanted to get to know you a little bit and us to get to know each other a little bit. So I figured I would start. My name is Sekani Brown again. It says Errol Brown on official documents, so don't be confused about that. This is my 5th year here at Mount SAC. I enjoyed it very much. Have great students thus far. I teach African American history and U.S. history here at Mount SAC. In terms of me and my background, I'm from San Diego, California. Actually currently live in San Diego, California. That's where I am at the moment, even though I work up in Mount SAC. So I'm a commuter like many of you. Spend a lot of time on those freeways. In terms of my background, educationally, I went to UCLA. That's the sweatshirt. I did my undergraduate degree at UCLA in African American Studies with a concentration in history. I did my master's degree at UCLA in African American Studies with a concentration in history. And I stayed at UCLA. I did my PhD in U.S. history with a concentration in African American history. So spent a lot of time in Westwood. But my first teacher was actually my mother. My mother taught African American history for my entire life. And a lot of the approaches that I have borrowed and stolen have come from her, and some of the unique ways that she approaches the subject. So you'll see some of that come out in how we do things. One of the things that she emphasized was not memorization so much as analysis. Right? We want to focus on historical significance. She had 2 phrases that she used to focus attention on historical significance. One was why. Why do we care about these things? So what? Right? So what or why do we care about events, people, places, things in history? So we will always emphasize the why, right? The significance. Why was it significant at that time, and why is it significant now? Why do we care now? The other side of that is how. How does something become significant? What are the processes involved? So you'll notice in our assignments that we'll always try to privilege the notion of significance. So in terms of this class, I wanted you to introduce yourselves because we really are forming a community, especially with some of the difficult subjects we have to work through. We have to be able to talk about some difficult things and arrive at some understandings. Not always agree with each other, but arrive at some understandings of the complications of the history we have in front of us. And so I wanted to start by introducing myself in that sense. I only asked you a couple of basic questions for that discussion board, that introduction discussion board. I asked your hometown, just to kind of get a sense of what home is for people, how long you had been at Mount SAC, what your major was, and what do you think you might get from a class like this, right? So you'll notice those 4 questions listed on the discussion board. If you could just answer those briefly, we can start to get to know each other as a class, as a community, especially since we don't meet in person. So I wanted to kind of begin with that, give you some sense of how we'll do things. Hopefully that makes sense, and please participate in that discussion board within the first couple of weeks. You get 5 points for doing so, but more importantly, it's about beginning to establish community. Thank you.